So it's funny how kind of like the circle of life is, you know, our parents raise us and we're children. It's all of a sudden like our parents are our children, right? And then we raise our kids, and now all of a sudden, like we're the children and our kids are raising us. And it's like, hey man, you can't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. And now it's like our kids are telling us what to do and bossing us around. It's like, what's to do with that stuff, right? So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about the circle of life and how all of a sudden our kids are being a pain in our ass. So, join us.
Welcome to the Grief Pie Podcast. This is a show where we motivate and inspire men to share their grief one bite at a time. Thanks for tuning in and adding your voice and stories so that we can all heal and find joy together. Now, please welcome your hosts, Gary Scott and James Rafter.
Anyways, guys, listen, please, if you get anything out of our Grief Pie podcast with me and Mr. James P. Rafter, please like, subscribe, hook us up, join, whatever it is, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of them. We're on everything, and we'd really appreciate your support, because the more that you like, subscribe, comment, and join us, it helps us kind of spread our wings a little bit and attract more folks, because we really want to blow this up and help people. So without further ado, I want to bring on the handsome and debonair, the man, myth, and the legend with his wonder dog Finn, Mr. James Rafter. So what do you think of this? I mean, what's going on with our kids? This is bullshit.
It's it's pretty hilarious. That in the course of 12, 13 years, I went from a scrawny pain in the ass teenager to, you know, someone who calls me out and is yelling at me. Years ago, you stole my car and drove it to a football game without my permission, and then you lied about it till I showed you the mileage, because I put the mileage on 0, and when it came back, it was exactly the distance from Palm Desert to San Bernardino. He's like, "Oh, so that was smart of you."
Hey, that's because we used to do it as kids, so we know all this shit. We did it. There just wasn't cell phones to catch it all back when we were kids.
Oh, now that I've kind of hit this terrible twos, but as you like to call it, um, they're much more concerned with, mood swings, my ups and downs, those things we go through, right? Not every day is a good day, not every day is a bad day. And yeah, there are times when I just don't want to talk, and I've been called out um, for not responding to a text message or, a phone call. And they have been very vocal on that. At least let us know you're alive, right? And having a bad day. That's fine, but you can't ignore us. So they have been very, very vocal the last 2 weeks on my mood swings and ups and downs. And it's super funny because they put us through the ringers, right? I I my my son got kicked out of college for fraternity hijinks. So it's really funny now to be like admonished and taken down by my eldest, who now is leading the charge on being the adult
Did you ground him?
Which time?
This time. You're not the boss of me.
I should have used every line he used, you
Ex-
know, between 17 and 21,
You should
and just,
still do it. Write them
yeah,
down.
just regurgitated everything that blew out of his pie hole for
So
those
what
years.
happened? What happened? It was like, but it was like gang warfare, right? I mean, they all jumped you and shanked you with like homemade knives, or what happened?
Yeah, it was one of those, hey, we need to do a family FaceTime, which I think, that's just part of Jen being, the best mom ever in the world, is that despite all the challenges of growing up, she instilled some pretty amazing, um, I didn't do it. It was all Jen, but some pretty amazing attributes um in our children. And so no, they were just, hey, you haven't responded to like, 9 texts, and you were supposed to be in Sacramento this weekend and you're not here. What up?
By the way, you didn't have to mention that it was all Jen and you didn't do shit. Because we know that. We've
It's
already covered that. They'd be
right.
our children would be like raccoons eating out of cans and living under a bridge if we raised them by ourselves. I'm not saying they wouldn't be happy. I'm just saying it'd be different. Mine kids included. So I mean, what's going on with that? I mean, what's that doing with your emotions on that right now?
Yeah, so really funny story is, so it's Masters weekend. Not to
Oh,
date this thing, right?
yeah.
So, but it's a big weekend for our family. We're big golf fans. The Masters was huge. My little brother, this week was his favorite week of the year. We spent countless times at PGA West, where he'd bring his family down on vacation. We'd all meet up to watch the Masters play golf. So it's a huge weekend. And then again, Jen's birthday is next Tuesday. So there's a lot of emotions going on. Um, Again, I was watching the par three tournament a little bit today and watching all the little kids scurry around, and just I was in tears just remembering all those times on golf courses with, you know, my little munchkins that are just mean. Um,
They're not mean, they just care. It's interesting because yesterday was mine and April's 35th wedding anniversary. And so a lot of years it was on Masters weekend. So the Masters has a lot of meaning for me that way. Not only is it the greatest golf tournament in the history of the world, but we never missed it ever. And it was just whether our anniversary was that weekend or not. I mean, we'd celebrate Masters weekend always, and it's just so it brings up a lot. And then my birthday's next week also, so it's like there's a lot going on because I'll be 61 and my dad died at 61. So it's a weird feeling to now be the age that my dad was when he died. I'm like, shit, man, I hope this isn't some Elvis Presley thing, man, where I die the same day as his mom's birthday. I'd be pissed. Um,
right.
yeah, and we were watching a video, Elisa, we were watching a podcast on my grief recovery method program that I've joined, and the founder's son is now doing a podcast, and he did it on how snowboarding is a lot like grief, and it was interesting. And he has 2 boys, 9 and 11, that he snowboards with every weekend. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Because, Chris and Zach were 9 and 11, and I was snowboarding with them. So I'm like, remembering what it was like when they were little like that and how much I miss those times. right? And then today, Christopher calls me about our property management business. And there was two things I was been promising I was going to do. And I'm like, well, what were they again? And he fucking lost it on me, man. He just unloaded. He was banging his head against the car. I could hear it. And then he just hung up. And so I gave him a couple of minutes and I felt so bad. I mean, because I got chemo brain. I mean, I told Elise, I go, you got to research, get me supplements to repair my brain because I can't remember shit, right? So I call him back and I just apologize profusely, right? Just I'm so sorry. I that was my job. That's my part of our team, right? And he just is just so disappointed in me, and we have these conversations all the time where we're trying to run this business together. He's doing 99.9% of it because I'm just so screwed up. Right. And I feel so bad. And then Zach will call me and he's just so nice and kind and giving. And he wants to do the podcast. He listens to everyone. He always texts me, when's the next one coming out? And what's going on? He's so supportive of it. And Chris will not even talk about watching one, let alone coming on. Right. So I get it. The kids now are adults and they're watching us being different humans than they've always known. Like I always had my shit together, even though if I was a silly dad or a crazy dad. I built the business with his mom. We had homes, we traveled, we were successful people, right? And they're good humans. And now they're like, who the fuck are you? And what happened to my dad? You know what I mean? So they're like, it's not that they are being mean, it's just they're worried. It's like, what on earth happened to my dad?
I told them, I'm like, you I told them, and again, it's not fair because they are just, youngins and they didn't know what was going on. But it's like, okay, mom and I were the best team in the world. We built businesses. We gave you a stable household. I ran 5 miles a day, walked you to the bus stoppers. And no one said thanks, right? But the moment we go off the rails a little bit, it's what the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, but I have to say, in my kids' defense, I mean, my children make me cry because they always say, Dad, we get what's going on. We know you're hurting. And then when we got cancer, they're like, oh, well, that totally sucks. They were scared, obviously. But they always say, Dad, we had the best childhood of anyone we know, of anyone we've ever heard. We had the best childhood and we love you and we appreciate what you and mom did, but now we're scared because it's like you've been probed by aliens, which I have been, and that's not a bad thing. But but I'm just saying, it's like I, they're like, God. And Chris was so frustrated today on the phone. I felt so bad. It broke my heart. So I waited a little bit. Elise and I had lunch, and of course, it was a miserable lunch. The food was okay, even though I can't eat. But I devoured it. It was actually very good. And then I called them, said, Elisa, would you mind going to the car? I just want to call Chris, and I want to do it by myself, and just called him and said, buddy, I'm just so sorry. Dad's a mess, and I can't get my shit together, and I'm trying. So, our kids, I think, are frustrated for one, because they seem to be getting it through it better. And they just know who we are and are like, where are you? Where's my dad?
Yeah, that's really very true. One of the things that came up in our call on Monday was they're like, you need a more serious therapist, someone that specializes in PTSD for everything you've been through, because you're just reliving, you know, um 45 years, 50 years of just crap that's gone on. So yeah, so my oldest is now researching, PTSD specialists. Because I don't discount that. I think that's a big part of where I'm kind of at in this process. But the other thing that came up today, I was talking to my daughter about some stuff, and she's really funny because she's dealing with a friend of hers that is going to go through some serious relationship stuff. And um, Sam, she actually used the term that she's been privileged, right? She had an amazing childhood, a mom and a dad, that were always together, um, great brothers. Um, she's got an amazing husband. So it's hard. She said it was hard for her. It's hard for her to like give serious input to someone that didn't have that kind of um, childhood. So we had an amazing kind of little discussion today about that. It made me feel good, right? That she felt like she's lived a privileged life, which I love that term. And the fact that we were able to do that was amazing. And it made me realize I really kind of got to get back into that mode of giving them a good dad, um, whatever that is, right? Um, and get out of this 2-year slump that I'm in. Uh, so, um, but it's good to hear your kids as they become adults. They're married, they're living their lives, right? And they acknowledge and realize how amazing the life you gave them was, and now they can kind of turn it back on you and help. So that's kind of cool, right?
Well, if my child, I guess it's different for a daughter, but if either one of my children said they were privileged, I'd smack them right in the nuts. Um, it's a horrible word. I think it's the new woke term of don't want to get into politics, but we struggled as a family. We worked hard. We worked very hard, and their mother worked very hard, and it probably freaking put her in the grave. The stress of her business and working very hard. Um, my kids weren't spoiled. They just had a very loving home. Now, if you want to call that privilege, you can. And I'm not bitching at Sam. I'm just saying that the kids need to understand that what you gave them came from hard work and you sacrificed. I mean, how many days were you on the road? A lot, right? A lot. I mean, April and I turned down tons of stuff, opportunities, because our focus was our kids and our family. We made them the top priority. We lived in a 900 square foot ranch house, two
Love
bedrooms,
that
one
house.
bath, 1946 little shit box. That's where they were raised. But we had the 2 acres and the animals, and they played in the dirt. We didn't have Xboxes and shit like that. So, you know, we did the best that we could. It just happened to have been really good because of the amounts of love. And Jen was there to pick it up when you weren't, when you had to work. April was definitely ran the roost, right? We just had two amazing wives. Um, but I think like Sam, look what she's going through with this baby. Whatever happened to was it baby A or is it Scarlet?
It's Scar.
What's going on with Scar? Did she get Scar? Is she still going through that?
We can only hope. They've got a hearing in May. So
I mean, that's really hard. Okay, that's hard. And so for her to be able to share something with someone, she lost her mom. I mean, she's had heartache. There's been challenges in her life. And so, yeah, I just think the what you're going through, what I went through, and what our kids went through, what Jen's mom went through. Harold wasn't here, but everybody had to pay a price for when Jen passed or when April passed. I posted just in the family text, not on Facebook, just out of respect for Elisa, with the family, a picture of April and I on our wedding day, and to say, guys, can you believe we were all here getting drunk 35 years ago? You know, but I just I sent it to all the family members, most of the family members that because I'm close with almost her full family, and my boys, and the best man, the maid of honor that were at the wedding. And I said, can you believe 35 years ago we were all in Indian Wells for our wedding? And it's just the responses back were just so awesome and made you feel good, right? But the fact of the matter, all those people were affected, right? And they all suffered in a certain way. And however, you and I are kind of suffering out loud, right? Because we're trying to
Yep.
accomplish something. But so many people are suffering in silence. So I know Christopher, his God, his pain that he's going through. I wish we would talk about his mom. We just haven't, and Zachy and I have a lot more, and he's cleared it a lot more, maybe because he wasn't here doing all the pain and stuff. But I think sometimes I look at our kids and that's their way of healing, right? That's their way of dealing with that loss. You and I are a shit show, but maybe the kids are just trying to be strong for us because they see us as a shit show. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and and after and I also had a discussion today with my older sister, and she brought up a really good point as I was kind of talking to her about a little bit about this. Is she's like, well, you're forgetting that your kids lost their mom and they don't have anybody if you're gone. And it really brought that to bear, brought that home, right? Where, and I look back when I lost my mom in 94, I didn't have, anybody. My dad wasn't around. Um, it was just the siblings dealing with it, right? Um, so it made me think a lot today about um, how to get back to adulting a little bit. Again, I'm proud of them for, moving through stuff. Again, they didn't go through everything we went through on the caregiving side, right? They were involved in some stuff, Samantha more than the boys. Not that the boys were bad, it was just different circumstance. But um, I got to get back to understanding and somewhat adulting and giving them a chance to mourn and reach out because I know, you know, the birthday's coming up next week and they're all worried about me, right? And shame on me for not worrying more about them, and not being around for their mom's birthday. Um, and again, on this weekend, where Jen wasn't a big sports fan, but Masters would bring her, she was always involved in a good Masters tournament. Um, to watch with everybody. So she would sit and pretend that she liked what was going on.
Which one of your
Uh,
children? Which one of your children golf?
yeah, the boys golf. The boys are big golfers. That's my fault. I ruined them for life.
No, no, golf's a great one of the best things you could ever teach a child is to golf. And we were very involved with the First Tee program out here in the
Okay.
desert. And April loved that very much. And basically they teach you everything but golf. They teach you the 9 principles of golf. They teach you about honesty and fairness and competition and being graceful and being kind and sportsmanship. I mean, it's really a great program. and had the boys there quite a bit, and that's where they learned to golf. It's right down the street.
Yep.
And the first tee is an amazing thing because that's the beauty of golf. You keep your own score. You know if you hit it behind a tree, whether you kick it out of there or not, right? I mean,
Hey, Ted Baxter.
the boys and I to this day on the 18th hole meet on the 18th hole after we've all gotten balls out and put the pin in, remove our hat and shake hands and say, great round. We've done it since the time they were first picked up a club. That's part of the sportsmanship of golf. So golf's one of the greatest things in the world, and that's why I'm just so attuned to the Masters. but back to us, I've had a pretty big revelation recently. I've taken this course and I've gotten certified in this program. And walking through it, I've discovered a lot of things about grief and about myself and about other people that I didn't really know until I walked them in my process through them. And you and I are kind of been forced to go into another life path, right?
Yep.
And we're our natural sense is to fight it, right? Because we liked the old life path. It was awesome. It was comfortable. It was great. We loved that person. They meant so much to us. So we've been forced by the cosmos into this new life path. And we could either fight it kicking and screaming, or we can accept and open ourselves up to what's coming next. And by doing that, the healing is just going to come so much easier. And the kids are such a big part of that. I mean, imagine if we didn't have kids, the people go through this without children.
Right.
The other thing I found out was interesting is the people who lose children, like over 80% of it end up divorced. The pain is so great. So it's like our kids are such a gift. You've done the parenting. You don't have to be a parent anymore. Just be there for them. They're parents now. You don't need to be
Yeah.
there for them, you know?
Yeah. No. Yep. They're grown ass adults. They've got their significant others. They've got their babies. And they own their own properties. They're moving forward. And sometimes, especially this last year and a half or whatever, I've taken that for granted. And I know I need to stop and appreciate them more, which is why I'm flying to Sacramento on Friday. They don't want me to be alone. Um my son and his better half and my granddaughter, who's now a walking terror, you know, want me up there, right? And I'm like, the easy play is to sit here and not do anything, right? And just wallow in the memories and the sadness. And I don't know, I've been told that's not the best option, right? And that I need to grow a set and get up and out. So that's why they made me text them copies of all my itinerary and confirm that I'd paid for flights and
But
hotel rooms.
it's not, you're not growing a set. It's not about that. It's not, you are, you're doing what you need to do, right? You're in the process that you're in. It's not about growing a set. It's just the sadness is there. It's never, ever, ever going to go away. It just isn't going to go away. You know, um, I've remarried a great gal. She's my best friend. Fuck, we do everything together. It's like a dude. Um, but every once in a while, she lets me see her change out of her clothes. Um, so it's like I get to peep in the girls' locker room every once in a while. And, Then she say, "Oh, so that's what it looks like." Um, but still, it doesn't mean I don't miss the old days. Especially yesterday on our 35th anniversary. That was tough. I'm thinking, shit, man, we would have been together 35 years, right?
Yep.
And April will be gone 10 years this year, right? So I just I just think we need to, or I need to, I think what'll be helpful is to continue to love and accept the memories, but accept that I have a whole new world out there. And I'm going to discover that whole new world because that's the gift that was given to me. April would want me. First of all, she'd be pissed that I'm still whining.
Right.
but I look at what she would have done if I was the one who died, right? Knowing her, she would not have jumped right in a relationship like I did. She would have nurtured the kids. She would have understood the loss, and she would have missed me and what we had. But she would also grasp the reality of it's time to now look at my life and what is April going to do now? And what does April want to do? And what would Gary want me to do? And I'm going to focus on that aspect, the growth of it, the good of it, and the kids, and not kind of wallow in the pain of it if it's possible.
I'm gonna give you my first one. 100%. I get caught up too much in my sadness and not respecting, when I say my sadness, the challenge of the 3 years of caregiving and the whole cancer journey, right? And I'm not respecting enough on what Jen did through that period herself, where she fought tooth and nail every day, right? I mean, if she knew I was giving up because she's not around, she'd kick my ass all over this place, right? Because she fought so hard to make every day just, you know, the best it could be, even though there were a lot of challenges and we've talked about a lot of them. And so I got to get back to honoring that. Um, also had a great conversation this morning with Samantha about one of my big challenges right now in this, and maybe again, because you jumped into relationships pretty quick. I tried and I effed them up, but the loneliness, right, that is the hardest thing for me right now, is to wake up lonely every day. And Sam had so much insight on a couple of the gals that I like. They're just, with their situations, they're just not going to be that person that can handle my baggage. Right. I mean, so I've got to figure out a way to get rid of baggage before I can find, you know, someone else, another companion.
Well,
So, and
I saw something, and I'm sure it was a meme, because you're a meme, right? Aren't you now a meme? I think you said you.
I don't know if I'm a meme.
I thought you said you were a meme or an avatar. I don't know what you are. You're an international podcast superstar, especially in Asia. But I saw something that I thought was very good, and I either forwarded it or sent it on. But I saw something that said something to the effect. Now I don't remember because I'm old and I've got chemo brain. Something to the effect of, don't try to find someone, don't don't worry about your baggage. Find someone who will be there to help you unpack it with you. So It's like you don't have to do anything. Jim's a great guy, right? Jim is a really good guy. He was a good dad. He's a good friend. He's a good son, a great husband, great caretaker, right? Jim doesn't have to fucking change Jim at all for anybody, right? You just have to find your happiness. And I talked to Elisa about this on the way home today from Big Bear. I said, I'm just so miserable. And it's not just April's passing. It's not that the business is exploding. It's not that just that I let my son down. It's not that I, still not feeling the effects of cancer. Although there's so much shit that could make me unhappy, right? It's still not that stuff. There's something that's just missing. So Jen passing obviously was massive for you. The business changing is massive for you. No longer living in your great neighborhood with all your friends is massive for you. The kids being scattered all over the country is massive for you. Not knowing what you want to do when you grow up is massive for you. Being lonely every day is massive for you. So if you look at all these things that you're struggling with, you have to understand, fuck, man, no wonder I'm so screwed up and it's painful, right? It
Yeah.
just is. But at the core of that is one thing. And you just have to be able to get inside you and say, okay, what is this? With all this shit that's fucked up, what's that one thing, and can I heal that? And it'll make all the rest of it more tolerable. We just got to figure out what it is. I wish I knew what mine was. I'm looking for it hard.
It was like I told you earlier today, I finally pulled the trigger and made the decision, right? To cash out some dollars and buy property in another state, right? And finally make that decision. I mean, I sit there and it's like, what can I control, right? I can control that, right?
I'm going to give it back to you 100%. 100%.
And that's I can't we can't control the past, and what you just brought up with all the challenges we've gone through. I can't I can't make those better. I can't make those better memories. They're always going to be tragic, tragic memories. Um, but I can control the future if I want to. And that's kind of what the kids brought up this week, in our little intervention, right? When they decided to be the adults in the room and put me in timeout. So,
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can't control that California is trying to ruin your business like they're trying to ruin my business, right? You can't help the fact that you needed to sell the house so you could be close to the hospital and you miss all your friends and your neighbors. You can't help that the kids grow up and go out and do their thing on their own. You can't help that Jen got sick. I mean, there's so many things that are out of our control. And for me, although I'm not really a control freak, but I like to be able to massage stuff together. I'm a fixer, right? So I'd like to be able to fix things and make things be in an order and have some sense of control of stuff. And I don't right now. I mean, the government's just working desperately to destroy my industry. I still don't feel well from my sickness. I've let down my kids. I've let down my wife. My business completely sucks. I mean, there's so many areas of my life that are so spinning out of control. So I'm just trying to step back and say, okay, what is the one thing I can grab hold of? Right? I mean, I'm in this hurricane. There's one tree standing. I'm going to grab that fucking thing and I'm going to hold on and let this wind spin me around, but I'm going to hold on this tree until I find that one thing, right? That I can control, that I can hold on to so that I can start healing this other shit. Now, starting with the kids is a great spot because that's a real solid foundation. right? That's a tangible thing, right? They're your children, they're your grandchildren. They came out of the your loins, right? So that's a real tangible thing. Cleaning that up, healing that up, making all that goodness, because you're still there. They didn't die. They didn't go away. You haven't changed who you are at your core. So, starting there might be the best thing for you.
Yeah, and how we kind of started this off is that I am super proud of Jen and I that we gave our children the ability to be good adults when they became adults. Not that they need to wipe my ass and take care of me, right? But they're fine calling me out, worrying about me, all the little nuances, right? Um, I want to watch my grandbabies grow up. Um, so there's a lot to be thankful for and to be proud of. Just have to like take a moment in the mirror and get out of the woe is me headspace, um, and stop thinking about. But I thought about this today is I don't necessarily want to put everything that Jen and I went through, especially the last few years, in a box and bury it and hide it. Right. I don't want to just walk away from it. But I have to balance it with moving forward and using it as a positive um, memory, not a negative memory, right?
Yep. To quote a great man, 100%. Um, and with that comes stepping back about the loneliness, because holding on to those memories, you know, all of those memories involve another person, right? And now, as great as those memories are, but that person's gone and you're still here by yourself, right? And so dealing with the loneliness is a really tough creature. I mean, and that's why I jumped so fast. I didn't want to be alone, and I didn't want to wallow, and I didn't want to think about it, and I didn't want to be in the suffering. So I jumped into a relationship, right? Unfortunately, that created a massive crash and burn incident. But when I got out of that, I was still lonely. I like to be in a relationship. That's why it was so easy to be married so long. That's why, as of yesterday, I would have still been married 35 years. Easy. Shit, April and I would have hit 50. We would have been at 50, no problem. We would have been the golden anniversary people, right? You and Jen, the same thing, right?
Yeah, everyone hated the fact, especially our kids, that we were like first on the list, right? We always came first, our relationship, and the kids hated that, right? As teenagers, they were like, what what the hell is wrong with you people? Take care of your kids. And we're like, we can't take care of you unless we're take care of each other. And that was the one thing that creates kind of where we come from right now in this space, or I come from in this 2 year space. And the loneliness is that we gave everything to each other. Um, no one came between us ever. It was us against the world every day, all the time. Whether or not she was getting in fights or cat fights with, the mothers of Bermuda Dunes, housewives, you know, didn't matter. I was always on taking her aside and, you know, making sure that she was okay with stepping away or whatever throughout the, you know how women are, right? You
Yeah.
know, just the evilness that is a a housewife is just beyond reproach. So
Well, and so that's, so when I mean, think about that. It's like when I brought up the fact or statistic or whatever that, when a child dies, whether you got 8 kids or 1 kid, when one of those children die, a massive percentage of those marriages divorce. So it would lead you to believe naturally that it was the children that was helping keep that marriage together. And now that child is no longer there. You guys, it was all about you two, right?
yeah.
You each had your six, you were your ride and die, and that's just how it was, suckers. And so, losing that massive portion of your person is wickedly bad. It's natural that you would spend a lot of time mourning that. So now it's time to step back, perhaps, and look at how you're mourning it. Look at how you're mourning the loss. And if that is going to be true to you moving forward, and if it's going to be true to Jen looking back, and say, okay, it's not about growing balls or putting on my big boy pants or being tougher or, carrying the load or being a man or any of that bullshit. It's all about this is what we had, and now this is where I'm going. And how do I want to get there?
Yeah, and then like as we whip this thing around, right, and bring it back to how we started, is having the discussions the last 2 weeks with my kids, right, where they've really gotten raw and in my face. Um, James is actually pretty funny. Um, that I it's made me realize, right? And I'm looking forward to this weekend. I know it's going to be tough. I'll be in Sacramento, which is where I found my brother dead, watching the Masters, his favorite tournament. I mean, a lot of little things, right? All these little things that add up into the steps sometimes you don't think you can climb. But um, I know that I've got this support group, which I think is important. Um, is my
Huge.
kids have now become this weird support group, and um, I've got to honor that, make that. I've got to not disappoint them. So that's a big part of that, right?
Yeah. 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 So, like you said, to kind of wrap this up, um, our children are now our parents. I'm now my mom's parent. God, I talked to her for 2 hours today, talked to her all the time. That's, I guess, just a circle of life. And if your kids didn't give a shit, they wouldn't be fighting so hard for their dad. If they didn't love you so much and weren't so grateful for how you raised them and what they had, like Sam said, privilege, then they wouldn't give a shit. My mom whines all the time that none of her kids call her, none of her grandkids call her. And think how many people are out there that don't get along with their kids, haven't talked to their kids. Um, Sometimes this death breaks up the family. So we just have so much to be grateful for. And I know it's easy to step back and say that. It's so like cliche, but it's true. We have so much to be grateful for. And when you're sitting there watching the Masters, have your brother sit there, talk shit, make fun of them, have fun, and remember those good things. and keep focusing on the good. Keep focusing on the good memories and let your kids be the adults. Fuck, you don't have to step up a parent. We already done it. Fuck you. I already did my shit. Now
I
it's your
put in my
turn.
time.
You know how tough your birth was. So I love you. As always, another great cast or pod or whatever the suits call it. And we just want to remind all of our friends out there that, hey guys, this is Grief Pie. Two guys sharing grief one bite at a time. And we would love for you to like, subscribe, write in, tell us how much we are horrible, how much you love us, how damn good looking Jim is, how animated Finn was on this entire call. Reach out to us because we really do want to help. And the more we can grow this, hopefully the more people we can reach. And the more people we can help. So Jim, as always, love you.
Love you. I will see you on the backside.
This has been our weekly broadcast. Brought to you by the Grief Pie Podcast Studios. We can be found on all the popular podcasting platforms. Remember to like and subscribe and to hit that alert button so you don't miss any episodes. Thanks again, and until next time, treat yourself gently and don't bite off more than you can chew. Healing is a process.